Testing, testing. 1, 2, 3. Testing. Testing. 1, 2, 3. Okay, good. Well, welcome back. So today we're going to do a case about real data. 2019 KDnugets, it's a famous website. They ask a poll to their community. It has two questions, this poll. First question was, which skills do you currently have? And two was, which skills do you want to add or improve? And this is what happened. We had skills here, and this is the summary of the poll. And for example, Python, 71% of the people say they have Python, 37% say they want, and the ratio between have and want, or want and have, is 0.5. In the case of PyTorch, for example, 7% say they have, 29 say they want, so the ratio is 4. And for example, look at Excel, for example, which is not here. Anyway, this is the data, and so this is how it was visualized. This is the first chart they visualized, and so you can see Python here ranked from more common to less common. A second chart was this one, where they added the want. So now we have 2 data points per skill. So for example, you can see Excel here, where a lot of people say they have Excel as a skill, and only 5% say they want to improve their Excel skills. Let me tell you one thing here. If you don't know more than 20 shortcuts in Excel, you don't know Excel. This is the third chart. It's a scatter plot, and you can see, for example, here the color was used to indicate the ratio. So PyTorch is very hot, Scala, Julia are very hot, Excel is cold. So the skills were grouped in 2 groups, hot and cold, which is kind of an indicator of the market, where the market is going, or which skills are more monetizable. It's very interesting. So here's the challenge for you. You have 30 minutes to better storytell these 3 charts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 30 minutes have passed. So let's see what we could do here. Right. So let's start with the scatter plot. This is a scatter plot done in R language. It's the same information, and so much, too many information here, right? So the first thing we need to do is to reduce the cognitive load. Good. How can we do that? So one way to do this, here I put a meme to show that this is not good. One way to do this is to do what Gartner does, is to divide things in 4 quadrants, and then you have 4 groups, and that kind of like, okay, I kind of organize the information a bit. But this chart has a lot of cognitive dissonance. And why is that? Because when we see a chart, we expect to see the wanted things high and to the right. But in this chart, the wanted things are high, but they're to the left. And this is not what people are used to. So we can solve it by flipping the chart. And now it feels much more familiar. Why? Because the hot things are high and to the right, which is deep learning, TensorFlow. Good. Right, so that's one thing, rearranging, no cognitive dissonance. And what's next? Well, we kind of still have a lot of cognitive load because these clusters, they don't have names. So we kind of trying to make meaning out of it. So we can solve this by choosing one representative for each cluster. So for example, for this cluster, I choose deep learning, and I use a meme to indicate the description of the cluster. So in this case, it's like really hot skills. For this cluster, which is percent that people that do not have the skill and they don't want it, Java, I choose this meme, no thank you, and Java, and quickly, oh no, okay, this is the not cool skills. Same for here, Excel, which a lot of people have and nobody wants anymore. Why you love me no more? And here people have it and people want more of it. So love. Showing these at the beginning or a version of this, memes, cluster representative, and labeling the clusters really helps reduce the cognitive load because we show. And then if people want to drill down, they can do that. Right? So this is a much better way, a more fun way, and more meaningful way to describe the information. Another thing you can do, and this is related to this chart here, which has a lot of potential if we look at the gaps here, because think about the following. What is the gap, the meaning of the gap? Think about that. And so the way to show this chart, which is could be done like this, so we could show this is the want, and the red is the have. But if you show it like this, and instead of showing the want, you show the gap between the want and the have, and this is what I show here in red. You can see very interesting things because the want, I mean, the have is what people have today, the level of people, the percentage of people that has the skill. So, for example, in deep learning, what does this mean? It means that this is the percent level. But if we add the gap to the have, what does that mean? It means that this 50%, if people could learn or had the resources to learn anything they wanted, we would fill the gap. And this would be the real level if people could learn anything they wanted. So now this chart has become a prediction of the future if people could do what they wanted. So look at Excel. If people could unlearn Excel, they would unlearn Excel and it would decrease by this much. Isn't it amazing? So, so here we have shown first how to use memes and decluttering to give meaning to the chart. And here we have shown how to connect to another thinking framework, which is if people could do what they really wanted, what would happen? This is another thinking framework. It becomes much more interesting, this data. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this exercise. And finally, leave you with this other iteration of the scatter plot. And this one is an analogy of the, I don't know if you remember, like 30 years ago, there was this chart about the internet wars between Java, open source, and Windows. So we can do the same. And here we just added a layer of information, which companies support which technologies. And then you can see like camps here. For example, Google is supporting Kaggle and TensorFlow, while Facebook is supporting PyTorch and Oracle is supporting Java and Twitter Scala. And then we have Microsoft here in the Why You Love Me No More place, right? And here we have Salesforce, which enters the space here in the data visualization with the purchase of Tableau a couple of years ago. So now you have a much more interesting chart where you can see why some companies support which technologies. Right, so I'll leave you with this, and it was a pleasure to have you here. The next lesson is about biases, and I totally recommend you have it because everybody has blind spots.